My name is Alexander Nguyen, and today I'll be talking about the Cold War's armistice in the 1950s. So, if you remember, the Fallout series. Nuclear stuff has proliferated across the entire American society from nuclear cola to nuclear-powered cars. But unfortunately, that is not far from the truth because it has proliferated across American society. First off, I'll be talking about the space age. Our first rockets were, in fact, ballistic missiles. For the Soviets, it was the R-77 Yorka, and for the Americans, it was the PGM-11. For the Soviets, the R-77 Yorka carried them through the Sputnik program, which, of course, as you may already know, Sputnik 1 was the first artificial satellite in space. And for the Americans, the Redstone launched their first attempt to try to shrug Russia with the Explorer 1, which was the first American satellite in space. And later on, these same ballistic missiles would also launch the Vostok and the Mercury programs, where the first men came into space. So, you may be wondering, how did these ballistic missiles come to existence? Well, it was to solve like a couple problems with strategic bombers. I'll be only going over two for today. The first was the endurance of the pilots. Because of course, you have to have a pilot to pilot a strategic bomber. Well, we have an answer for that, thankfully, due to a guy named General Thomas S. Powers, who started the Operation Head Start in 1958, and later on, Operation Chrome Dome. Operation Head Start proved that, well, ridiculously long-term nuclear alert flights, meaning that the atomic bombers would probably be flying over the American and Russian border 24/7, was feasible. But unfortunately, when it was actually put in practice during Operation Chrome Dome, the Americans accidentally dropped 4 nuclear bombs. Yeah, you do not want that to happen when your pilot's like, and then just drops a couple bombs on some random South Carolina town or some random town in Spain. Another thing was the speed of the bomber. The Americans put up a bunch of early warning lines in Canada and the northern parts of the United States. So if a Russian strategic bomber were to fly over those early warning lines, they'd be intercepted by a nuclear-tipped anti-air missile. Yeah, the Americans, complete overkill. But this could be subverted if, one, the missile couldn't actually go ridiculously long range and ridiculous high speed, because a high-speed missile would cut down the response time from 1 hour to a mere 15 minutes. So, this was the concept of which the ICBM, or Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, was made. So, what was the impact of these ballistic missiles and the space race in general? Well, it started the National Defense Education Act, which according to the House of Representatives was the first federal funding law for education. And of course it created NASA. I believe you already know what NASA is, so I won't be going over that. So for you various guys in U.S. history, you probably already noticed, hey, this guy went over the nuclear triad, or at least part of it. That being the strategic bombers and the ICBMs. But you may be pointing out, where are the submarine launched ballistic missiles? I'll be getting there in the next segment. But first, we must talk about Admiral Hyman G. Rickover. This guy created the Naval Reactors program and is known as the U.S. Navy's father of the nuclear navy. He is known for setting very strict standards for nuclear engineering and nuclear technicians in the United States Navy, making a culture of excellence and safety within the U.S. Navy, or at least within its nuclear branch. Reason for this was because of Hiram Rickover's little encounter with the S-48, which was about as reliable as a piece of junk. because frankly, this thing broke down more times than I could count. Like, seriously. More times than the Soviet submarine sunk due to some stupid issue. So, his efforts would eventually culminate into the world's first nuclear powered submarine called the USS Nautilus. This was revolutionary due to its range and its speed. Let me say a quote from a US Navy report to get this point across. Running at 24 knots and re-attacking several ships at will, she made simulated attacks on 16 ships. Yeah. That amount of speed was unprecedented for that age. Its German counterpart, the Type 21, could only go 17.2 knots, and the only other submarine that could probably go faster, albeit only temporarily, was the Type 17, which went at 25 nautical miles per hour. The USS Nautilus could go at either 23 or 24 knots, depending on the source you have. Now then, this brings up an issue since our anti-submarine things are so slow. How the heck do you sink this thing? Well, the Americans have a solution. Operation Wagram was one of the first things to put up. Operation Wagram pretty much tested a nuclear depth charge, because apparently you can't get with nuclear stuff. And this commander report here asks, can a nuclear bomb sink a submarine? The answer is yes. And therefore we got nuclear depth charges in the Mark 45 nuclear torpedo. And somehow we also have a submarine launched ballistic missile, because someone in the conference asked, hey, why don't we put like a 1 kiloton thing inside a missile and then it turned into a huge argument. But I'll be going on. Okay. So what are the impacts of the naval reactor program and that of nuclear submarines? Well, first, naval reactors and Hyman Rickover helped to develop and build the Shreveport Atomic Power Station, which was the first purely commercial power station in the United States. We also got classics like the Hunt for Red October, and it wouldn't be as fun and as intense if the ship had to surface every couple of times to refuel. And we also got the completion of the nuclear triad, which helped to keep America and the whole world safe, because so in summary, the nuclear arms race helped to propel the space race and nuclear power and American culture along. So, at least America isn't as nuclear happy today than it was 70 years ago. We better be happy about that fact, because I don't want another Cold War and nuclear missile mail to come our way.